For 2,000 years, the world believed the resurrection story ended at an empty tomb. Then Ethiopian monks released a translation revealing what happened in the 40 hidden days that followed. Their Bible holds 15 more books than the West, containing teachings Rome was desperate to bury. If these ancient texts are right, nearly everything we thought we knew is up for debate. Why have these warnings and prophecies emerged now, and what is still being concealed? Ethiopia's Bible stands apart from every other Christian tradition. While most Western Bibles contain 66 books, and the Catholic version includes 73, the Ethiopian Orthodox canon holds 81. That is 15 more than the Protestant canon, 8 more than the Catholic. This is not a matter of later additions or apocryphal appendices. Many of these texts trace their roots to the earliest days of Christianity, some even predating the New Testament as it is known in the West. The word to watch here is canon. Among the extra books are the Book of Enoch, Jubilees, the 3 books of Maccabean, and the Book of the Covenant. These are not just obscure relics, they include stories and teachings that shaped the faith of millions for centuries. In Ethiopia, Enoch never vanished into legend. The Book of Jubilees remained in daily use. The Book of the Covenant, known locally as Mashafa Kidan, sits alongside the Gospels as a source of Jesus' teachings. The name to remember is Enoch. The scope of the Ethiopian canon reflects a different path through Christian history. While Europe's biblical canon narrowed over centuries, through councils, translations, and political struggles, Ethiopia preserved a broader record. The Garima Gospels, radiocarbon dated as early as the 4th century, provide a living link to a time before the Western canon had even settled. These manuscripts survived invasions, fires, and the collapse of empires, remaining intact in the highlands of East Africa. These are the Garima Gospels. The extra 15 books are not marginal. They contain prophecies, warnings, and visions that never made it into the Western Bible. Some describe angels who descend to earth, forbidden knowledge that changes the course of humanity, and teachings attributed to Jesus after his resurrection. The Ethiopian canon also includes 4 books of Synodos, the Didascalia, and additional apostolic writings that expand the boundaries of Christian doctrine. This is not trivia, these are prophecies and teachings with real implications. This numeric gap is not just a curiosity, it means that for nearly 2,000 years, Ethiopian Christians have read a different story, one that challenges the limits of what the rest of the world considers scripture. These texts offer a window into a Christianity that was never filtered through Rome or Constantinople. They preserve voices and warnings that were lost elsewhere, and their survival raises questions about what was left out and why. The sheer breadth of Ethiopia's canon forces a reconsideration of what counts as original and what has been forgotten. The result is a truly different tradition. In the highlands of Tigray, a set of ancient manuscripts rests within the stone walls of the Abba Garima monastery. These are the Garima Gospels, handwritten texts that have survived centuries of upheaval, fire, and war. Their pages, rich with vivid illustrations and lines of Ge'ez script, carry a weight that goes beyond legend. Scientific analysis has confirmed their age. In 2010, radiocarbon dating placed the creation of the Garima Gospels between 330 and 650 CE. Some folios, like Garima I, show a range from the late 4th to the early 6th century. Others, such as Garima II, fall between the 6th and 7th centuries. These dates make them the oldest surviving illustrated Christian manuscripts on the planet, older than the Book of Kells, older than anything preserved in Europe's cathedrals or libraries. The Gospels were not hidden away for most of their history. Monks at Abba Garima have guarded them in plain sight, passing down custodianship through generations. During invasions and times of chaos, the manuscripts were moved, concealed, and then returned to their home. Their survival is not a matter of luck, but of deliberate, careful stewardship. Unlike many ancient texts that exist only in fragments or faded copies, the Garima Gospels remain nearly complete, their colors still vibrant after more than 1,500 years. Laboratory reports from European and Ethiopian institutions confirm the authenticity of the parchment and inks. The materials match the era of the Aksumite Empire, when Christianity first took root in Ethiopia. The script is early Ge'ez, a language that has barely changed in monastic use. The illuminations, intricate crosses, birds, and geometric borders, show influences from both Africa and the Mediterranean, evidence of Ethiopia's unique crossroads between worlds. Scholars like Getachew Haile describe the Garima Gospels as an unbroken chain back to the dawn of organized Christianity. While Europe's manuscripts were lost to fire, iconoclasm, or conquest, these texts endured in Ethiopia's remote highlands. Their physical presence, verified by radiocarbon analysis and expert examination, anchors every claim about the Ethiopian canon in something concrete. The Garima Gospels are not rumor or legend. They are material proof, a foundation that gives weight to the voices and teachings preserved in Ethiopia's broader biblical record. Digital scans of the Garima Gospels carry more than just ancient words and illustrations. They arrive stamped with a metadata trail that scholars now treat as essential. Each file uploaded from Abba Garima Monastery in 2022 includes a time-stamped signature, geolocation markers, and a digital watermark issued by the Hill Museum and Manuscript Library. This system, developed to prevent forgery and unauthorized editing, follows a strict protocol. Every transfer, from the monastery's archive room to the digitization lab, is logged and cross-referenced. The result is a chain of custody that leaves little room for doubt about where the files originated and how they reached the public record. Philologists specializing in Ge'ez, the ancient liturgical language of Ethiopia, have taken on the task of rating these digital releases. Dr. Getachew Haile, recognized for his decades of work with Ethiopian manuscripts, reviews not only the content but the embedded metadata, ensuring the scans match cataloged originals down to the page sequence and ink composition. Alongside him, Dr. Wendy Laura Belcher, a Princeton scholar with expertise in African Christian literature, applies a blind review process. She verifies that the translation aligns with established Ge'ez syntax and idioms, flagging any section that appears interpolated or inconsistent with the manuscript's era. Uploaded files are assigned a confidence rating, often visible as a digital stamp in the document header. A blue stamp denotes a verified direct scan from a known repository. Amber suggests the file passed basic checks but awaits secondary validation. Red signals a break in the chain, an anonymous upload or a file lacking metadata, often the case with viral translations circulating on fringe platforms. The 2022 upload of the so-called Resurrection Passage bears a blue stamp, with a full audit trail available to institutions on request. This level of transparency has become the new standard for any claim of discovery, especially as controversies over digital forgeries and manipulated scans have grown. Textual controversies are rarely about content alone. They often hinge on provenance, who scanned the page, who handled the translation, and whether the file's journey can be reconstructed step by step. For the Garima Gospels and the broader Ethiopian canon, these safeguards are not just bureaucratic hurdles. They are the backbone of credibility, ensuring that any new translation or revelation can be traced to its roots. In a world where a single upload can reach millions overnight, the meticulousness of this process is what separates genuine discovery from rumor. The Book of Enoch stands as one of the most controversial and enduring texts in the Ethiopian canon. Its survival in Ethiopia is not an accident of history, but the result of deliberate preservation where other traditions chose erasure. The text describes the arrival of 200 angels called Watchers, who descend to earth, led by figures such as Samyaza and Azazel. These Watchers take human wives and father a race of giants known as the Nephilim, whose appetites and violence threaten to consume the world. But the danger in Enoch's account is not just physical. The Watchers teach forbidden arts, metallurgy, the making of weapons, the use of cosmetics for seduction, and the reading of stars for hidden meaning. Each named angel brings a different kind of knowledge. Azazel instructs in swords and shields, Barakiel reveals the secrets of astrology, and Penamu introduces the art of writing and ink. For centuries, Western churches treated these stories as dangerous, even heretical. The Book of Enoch vanished from the European canon after the 4th century. Councils like Laodicea and church fathers such as Jerome and Augustine argued that its teachings, especially about angels and forbidden knowledge, invited confusion and dissent. Yet in Ethiopia, the full text endured, copied and read in the ancient language of Ge'ez. Monks safeguarded Enoch as scripture, not apocrypha. Textual critics like James Charlesworth point out that Enoch's influence echoes in the New Testament itself. The Epistle of Jude quotes Enoch directly, a rare bridge between canons. In the words of Dr. Charlesworth, Enoch shaped early Christian thought but was sidelined in the Western world to avoid angelology debates. Ethiopia's decision to keep Enoch in the canon preserved a version of Christian history that is both older and more expansive than the familiar Western narrative. The presence of Enoch in the Ethiopian Bible is more than a curiosity. It offers a window into a world where the boundaries between divine and human, permitted and forbidden, were constantly negotiated. The stories of the Watchers and their forbidden arts are not just myth. They are a testament to Ethiopia's role as a guardian of texts that others abandoned. A passage in the Mashafa Kidan describes Jesus remaining with his disciples for 40 days after the resurrection, far longer than the fleeting appearances recorded in Western Gospels. According to the Ge'ez manuscripts, these days were filled with intense instruction, not brief reassurance or farewell. A recurring theme in the translation is the doctrine of the two winds. One wind, called the breath of life, moves through every person from birth, carrying the spark of the divine. The other, called the wind of error, slips in quietly through the senses, especially through greed, envy, and deceit. That second wind behaves less like a force and more like a parasite, slowly hardening the heart and dulling the mind. People overtaken by it become, in the text's words, walking tombs, alive in body, but hollowed out inside. The antidote, the text insists, is not ritual, sacrifice, or allegiance to a priesthood. Instead, it urges direct knowledge, gnosis, as the cure. The kingdom of heaven, it says, is not found in a temple or in a distant afterlife, but hidden within the silence between thoughts, deep inside the body. The passage warns against building monuments of stone and against trusting those who wear long robes and invoke the divine while they hoard gold. It predicts the real danger will come from those who claim to represent the message while they twist it for power. Dr. Getachew Haile, a leading philologist of Ge'ez, notes that the phrase translated as wind of error is notoriously difficult to render. Some versions call it the spirit of confusion or the breath of deception, and that ambiguity has fueled debate among translators. Haley argues the original deliberately blurs the line between spiritual illness and psychological disease. He cautions that the emphasis on inward knowledge over external ritual challenged the authority of both church hierarchy and imperial power. For centuries, these warnings circulated quietly among Ethiopian monks and rarely left monastic walls. Now, with digital scans and viral translations, the debate has reignited, raising uncomfortable questions about what was meant to be hidden and why. Dr. Roger Cowley stands at the center of a long-running debate over the authenticity of Ethiopia's extra-biblical texts. His research into the Mashafa Kidan, the so-called Book of the Covenant, points to a far later origin than many popular accounts suggest. According to Cowley and other textual critics, the language and structure of these resurrection passages reflect a medieval mindset, not the voice of first-century witnesses. The Ge'ez used in the manuscripts shows grammatical features and loanwords that only entered monastic writing in the 15th or 16th century. These are not idle details, they are the fingerprints of history, visible to anyone trained in the evolution of liturgical languages. Skeptics also question the chain of custody for recent English translations. The viral files that surfaced in 2022 and 2023 lack clear documentation. No named monk or recognized monastic institution has claimed responsibility for the scans or their dissemination. The blue-stamped digital signatures that accompany the Garima Gospels are missing from these uploads. Instead, the resurrection passages circulate anonymously, often stripped of metadata and context. For Cowley, this raises immediate red flags. Without a verified provenance, without a trail showing exactly how a text traveled from a monastery shelf to a global audience, claims of discovery lose their weight. The process of authenticating ancient manuscripts is painstaking. Scholars examine parchment fibers, ink composition, and even the stitching of bindings. Every stage is documented, every handoff logged. When any link in this chain is missing, the door opens to interpolation, mistranslation, or outright forgery. In the case of the Mashafa Kadan, critics argue that the lack of a continuous, transparent record undermines the credibility of the most sensational claims. The possibility remains that what is now being presented as a long-suppressed resurrection passage could be a medieval edition, or even a modern fabrication tailored for viral appeal. Textual critics are not dismissing the value of the Ethiopian canon. They acknowledge its depth and historical significance. But they caution against conflating tradition with evidence. For every document that survives centuries of fire and conquest, dozens more have been lost, altered, or misunderstood. The challenge, Cowley insists, is to separate the enduring voice of the past from the noise of the present. Only then can the true story of these manuscripts and the faith they inspire be understood on solid ground. Dr. Tsadale Mengistu is a meteorologist based in Addis Ababa, working from a lab filled with satellite maps and weather models. Her work focuses on the jet streams, those powerful high-altitude ribbons of wind that circle the planet. First identified by pilots during World War II, jet streams have become a cornerstone of modern meteorology, shaping airline routes and storm patterns. Dr. Mengistu overlays a translated passage from the Book of Enoch that describes gates of the winds and storehouses of snow onto current atmospheric data. She points out that while the ancient text speaks in poetic terms, there is a surprising alignment with the basic structure of today's global circulation models. The jet streams, first mapped in the 1940s, move in bands that resemble invisible corridors, gateways through which weather travels. Her analysis is careful. The Enochic description does not predict jet streams in a scientific sense, but the language of portals and wind storehouses echoes the way meteorologists now visualize the movement of air masses. High-altitude wind maps show persistent pathways, with air accelerating through narrow bands before spilling out into broader regions, patterns ancient observers might have called gates. Dr. Mengistu cautions against drawing direct lines between scripture and science. The ancient writers lacked instruments to measure wind speeds at 30,000 feet. Yet the metaphor holds. The world's weather is governed by a handful of powerful, unseen channels, just as the text describes. This alignment does not serve as proof of prophetic knowledge, but it does invite a fresh look at how ancient people observed and interpreted the sky. The resonance between ancient imagery and modern meteorology raises questions about the origins of these descriptions, and whether they reflect careful observation, inspired metaphor, or something still unaccounted for in the record. Deep beneath the continents, at depths reaching 400 to 700 kilometers, geophysicists discovered something that rewrote the understanding of Earth's interior. In 2014, a team led by Steve Jacobson at Northwestern University analyzed a tiny diamond retrieved from Brazil. Inside they found ringwoodite, a rare blue mineral formed only under immense pressure. What made this fragment extraordinary was its composition. It contained water, not as liquid, but locked within the crystal structure itself. Spectroscopy revealed that up to 1.5% of the mineral's weight was water, hinting at a vast, hidden reservoir. Jacobson's calculations, together with seismic data, suggested that the mantle's transition zone could hold as much as 3 times the volume of all surface oceans combined. This subterranean water does not flow in rivers or pools, but it is there, bound within minerals, cycling slowly through the planet's crust and mantle. The implications ripple through theories of plate tectonics, volcanic activity, and even the origins of Earth's oceans. For centuries, ancient texts like 1st Enoch spoke of an abyss of water beneath the Earth. Until recently, these descriptions were dismissed as myth or metaphor. Now, geophysical evidence points to a reality that ancient scribes could not have measured, but somehow described in their own language. Dr. Jacobson, reflecting on the discovery, notes that while the scientific process is rigorous, there is a sense of AW when physical evidence aligns, even loosely, with ancient ideas. The ringwoodite find stands as a rare case where modern spectroscopy and ancient cosmology intersect, inviting new questions about what else might lie hidden beneath the surface. The darkness will come, and it will wear my face. For centuries, this warning circulated quietly within Ethiopian monasteries, rarely surfacing in public debate. Now, As digital scans and viral translations spread, its meaning is being dissected by scholars and skeptics alike. Dr. Alamayehu Tesfaye, a historian of religion at Addis Ababa University, traces the theme of deception through centuries of Christian thought. He points out that warnings about false prophets and corrupted institutions stretch back to the earliest days of the Church. In the Ethiopian canon, however, the language is unusually direct. The passage does not describe evil as an outside force, but as something that mimics the sacred, adopting the symbols, language, and even the face of Christ to mislead the faithful. This motif is not unique to Ethiopia. Gnostic texts from Egypt, Syriac writings from Mesopotamia, and even fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls all warn of a time when the line between truth and deception will blur. But the Ethiopian version is unusually stark, naming the risk that the most trusted institutions could become vessels for the very dangers they claim to oppose. Dr. Tesfaye explains that, in the context of Ethiopian history, such warnings carried real weight. The Church was not just a spiritual authority, but a political power, guarding relics, crowning kings, shaping law. To suggest that darkness could hide within its own ranks was to challenge the very foundation of order. The ethical stakes are clear. If evil can wear the face of holiness, then no institution, no matter how ancient or revered, is beyond scrutiny. For Ethiopian monks, the passage was a call to vigilance, a reminder that faith demands more than obedience. It requires discernment, even when the danger comes wrapped in the language of salvation. The question left hanging is not just about texts or translations, but about the nature of trust itself. Inside the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Axum, a single monk is chosen for a lifelong role that few outsiders can imagine. Once selected, the guardian of the Ark of the Covenant lives in total seclusion, forbidden to leave the chapel or speak with visitors. The tradition holds firm, only one guardian at a time, his identity kept secret until the moment of succession. Local stories claim these guardians develop cataracts, lose their sight, and often die young. Reports from the past century describe guardians with pale skin and clouded eyes, but no medical records or scientific examinations have been released. A medical physicist, Dr. Samuel Tesfaye, has studied the claims from a distance. He points out that the symptoms, vision loss, frail appearance, and early death, are not unique to Axum. Monks across Ethiopia, especially those living in isolation, often suffer from vitamin D deficiency, malnutrition, and untreated infections. Cataracts are common among elderly Ethiopians who spend their lives indoors. Dr. Tesfaye emphasizes that without direct access or detailed health records, there is no evidence linking these ailments to radiation or any extraordinary energy source. The secrecy surrounding the Ark's guardian may protect the relic, but it also shields the truth behind a wall of tradition and rumor. Still, the pattern of illness among successive guardians continues to fuel speculation, leaving the line between faith and science unresolved. The 11 stone churches of Lalibela rise out of the earth, not as built structures, but as negative space, each one chiseled downward from solid volcanic rock. Modern surveys by the Zamani Project have mapped their depths with millimeter precision. The Church of St. George, for example, descends more than 12 meters, its cross-shaped roof level with the ground above. Across the complex, engineers have measured more than 1 million cubic meters of rock removed, yet no clear spoil heaps or debris fields remain. The question is not just how these cathedrals were shaped, but where all that stone went. Inside, passageways twist through darkness, opening into chambers that have never been fully explored. Zamani 3D scans reveal hollow spaces beneath the floors, sealed rooms and tunnels whose purpose remains unknown. Some are thought to be tombs, others perhaps ancient drainage systems. No one has entered many of these voids in centuries. Their exact contents remain unknown. Structural engineer Abebi Hailu has spent years studying the Lalibela site. He notes the remarkable precision of the cuts, columns aligned to within centimeters, arched ceilings that have survived 8 centuries of earthquakes and rain. Hailu's calculations suggest that, with hand tools alone, a workforce of several thousand would need at least a quarter century to complete just one of the larger churches. Yet, according to legend, the entire complex was finished in less than 30 years. The scale and endurance of Lalibela's architecture remain an open puzzle, a feat of engineering that defies easy explanation and strengthens Ethiopia's claim as a preserver of ancient knowledge. Geneticists have spent the last decade mapping the ancestry of Ethiopia's highland populations, searching for evidence that could confirm or challenge the legendary Solomonic bloodline. Dr. Yared Alamu, a population geneticist at Addis Ababa University, has led several studies analyzing DNA from Amhara and Tigray communities, groups historically linked to the royal dynasty. By comparing thousands of genetic markers, his team uncovered a consistent pattern. Between 15 and 30% of the ancestry in these northern Ethiopians traces back to ancient populations of the Levant, the region that includes present-day Israel, Palestine, and Lebanon. This Levantine signal is not unique to royal claims. It appears across the highlands, woven into the genetic tapestry of priests, farmers, and city dwellers alike. The admixture dates to the Bronze Age, long before the rise of the Solomonic dynasty, and likely reflects waves of migration and trade between the Horn of Africa and the Near East. Y chromosome analysis reveals that about 1 in 5 Amhara men carry haplogroups common among Semitic-speaking peoples. But these lineages are thousands of years old, too ancient to pinpoint a direct link to Solomon or Menelik I. Dr. Alamu stresses that while the genetic evidence supports a deep, ancient connection between Ethiopia and the Levant, it cannot confirm a literal bloodline from King Solomon. The story persists, not because of DNA, but because it anchors Ethiopia's sense of identity. The legend lives in royal chronicles and church liturgy, while the science traces a broader, older journey, one that connects the people of the highlands to a wider world. In early 2022, a digital file surfaced on a fringe forum, labeled as a fresh English translation of the so-called resurrection passage from the Ethiopian canon. Within days, the document appeared on YouTube, attached to a channel with fewer than 1,000 subscribers. The video's title promised a revelation hidden for nearly 2,000 years. By the end of the week, view counts crossed 100,000. Within 3 months, views passed 1 million. The algorithm, favoring long-form content and sensational claims, pushed the video to viewers across continents. A digital media analyst, Dr. Hannah Gebre, tracks the spread from her office in Addis Ababa. She notes that the earliest upload, time-stamped February 14, 2022, lacked any blue stamp provenance or institutional watermark. The file's metadata pointed to a generic device, with no traceable author or monastery. Despite these gaps, the translation was reposted to dozens of channels, each iteration stripped further of context. Dr. Gebre's data shows that spikes in viewership coincided with global surges in online searches for hidden Bible books and forbidden resurrection texts. No official statement ever appeared from the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Yet the viral spread continued, fueled by a wave of reaction videos, podcasts, and blogs. The original file, now copied and altered, became almost impossible to authenticate. Dr. Gebre warns that in the current digital climate, unverified claims travel faster than any institutional correction. The urgency is real. Once a story takes hold online, it can shape public understanding more powerfully than any library or any archive. As ancient texts resurface online, the boundary between sacred tradition and forbidden knowledge grows thinner. Today, millions turn to sources outside official channels, searching for the meaning institutions no longer provide. Whether legend or lost history, the questions these passages raise now define our digital age. Who controls truth? Who decides what we are allowed to know? In a world of illusion, even suppressed stories can spark a revolution. What will you do with the knowledge that survives?